Most heartfelt greetings and salutations, theydies and gentlethems. I eagerly welcome you to Sturgeons' most premier station, Dusklight Radio, hosted by yours truly, the effervescent Everett J. Blackwell. Perhaps you know of us. We provided the weaponry for those drafted into the Great Skeleton War of '88. It was in the year of the Infinity. Some people haven't found the exit to that one yet. We'd give them calcium-based weapons, and our mascot was a giant skeleton head that just shouted,
"Your bones are necessary for the slaughter. More calcium means more time bought. The many-eyed manifestation can be stopped with more bones."
Kids loved him. If you're just joining us, first of all, welcome and don't skip. I promise each of these are unique in their own way. Pass it on. Because I pay the best bodiless hands to type these, carpal tunnel outbreaks be damned. I'm Dusklight's main and most fabulous half-dead host. My job at this fine radio station is to bring you some of the most twisted, interesting, and downright bizarre tales that I and my wonderful many-legged runners collect from the far corners of Sturgeon and beyond. Some of them will make you laugh, some will make you cry, and some will stop the tinny sounds you hear in the dead of night. You know, the one that sounds like television static? You're probably hearing it now, psychosomatic and all that. Anyway, it's time to introduce our story for this evening. It comes to us from British sensation Sam Haysom. He's had many a hit story, and this one is a diamond in the rough that I was so eager to get my hands on. And it won't be the last Haysom story, let me tell you. The interview is a chilling tale that will keep you on the edge of your seat, bed, or whatever apparatus you're leaning on. Hopefully it's not high up, and hopefully it's not 3:13 in the morning. Why? You'll see. If you like Sam's work, he has a website, a subreddit, and a Twitter, all linked below in the description, and you can also grab his debut novel, The Moors, there too. The man knows spooky locations just as well as he knows spooky people, it seems. Special thanks must first be given to Mandy Moe for rendering yours truly in the beauteous image you see when you look at our page. Next, Dusklight bows at the altar of Trevor Henderson, the man behind Siren Head, for allowing Dusklight to use some of the images he's captured of various abominations. Our cast today features narrator TJ Lee, Dusklight's very own janitor preferring to do this over fix the light bulbs in the supply closet, Dick, and of course, lest we forget, some of the music you hear is provided by the Dark Somnium, with gracious thanks. With that, the sun has set and dusk has crawled into the studio once more. Whether you're working, prepping to sleep, or evading the formless void that will one day consume us all, Blackwell is here to soothe your ears and captivate your soul. Now, close your eyes and take a deep breath. The scene has been set and the light is on. It's time to walk towards it.
Hello?
Hello, is that Bob?
Speaking.
Hi, Bob. My name's Adam. Adam Clark. I'm calling you because...
Are you the one that works for that website? Paranormal one?
Yes, that's me. I'm actually a freelancer, but I write for them quite a bit. They passed on the email you sent in this morning and asked me to give you a call. I've just been reading through what you wrote and...
You mean that email about the woman, right?
Yes, that's it. I was hoping I could ask you a few questions about what you've been seeing lately. Would you be happy for me to use your answers as part of an article?
Yeah, suppose that'd be fine. But it's just, well, I don't really know what an article's gonna do to help.
Yes, I understand. We get that a lot. Plenty of the people I speak to aren't sure what the point is. You're not alone there. A lot of them contact us as a last resort, I think. Many of them have already called the police and...
That's what I did. Called them the first night it happened.
Oh, you did? That was actually something I was planning to ask you. And what did they do?
Bugger all. Came round and asked me a few questions and pissed off again. Said there was no sign of disturbance or forced entry. Nothing much they could go on at all, apparently. I said to them, what the hell do I pay my taxes for if you can't even help me when I need you? A lot of good you are. They just told me to call back if I see her again. I know what they were really thinking, though.
What's that?
I'm full of shit. Some lonely old nutcase making it all up. They didn't say it, but that's what they wanted to say. I could see it in their faces. That's why I didn't bother calling again, even when she did come back.
Okay, let's go back to the beginning. The first night you saw her, did anything unusual happen that day?
Anything unusual? No, I don't think so. I took Hector for a walk in the park. He's my dog. Hector is. And then I settled and watched my usual shows on the telly. Had a bit of dinner around 7. Pretty much what I do every day, to be honest. Nothing too exciting, but it does me just fine. Guess I'm too old for excitement.
Okay, and you went to sleep at the usual time that night, did you?
Yeah, thereabouts. I usually sit in bed and browse my iPad for a bit, but it messed up that night, so I spent a while trying to sort that.
Messed up?
Oh, there's no big deal. My son George lives in Australia, and he emailed me a photo of him and his wife at the beach. I opened it, and then the bloody thing kept crashing, freezing up on me. Spinning wheel of death, isn't that what they call it? Anyway, managed to sort it out eventually by turning the thing on and off a few times, and then I went to sleep after that. Must have been around 10:30 or so.
And you said in the email all your doors and windows were locked?
Absolutely. That's the one thing I'm sure of. I go around and check all of them every night. Last thing I do before I settle in. Marge used to wind me up about being OCD, bless her, but I never thought of that. Just like being careful.
Okay, so can you describe what happened next?
I'll try. I'm not sure I understand it myself, if I'm honest, but I'll do my best. It started when I woke up. I don't tend to sleep too well nowadays. Back's been bad for years, and it often wakes me during the night. Sometimes more than once. So waking up's nothing unusual for me. But this time I remember feeling wide awake, as if a noise had woken me, even though I couldn't hear anything when I opened my eyes. My bedroom was dark and quiet. I rubbed my face and leaned over to check the clock by my bed, and I saw it was 3:13.
3:13, did you say?
That's it. Same time every night, like I put in the email.
Okay, so you saw what time it was. Then what?
Well, I got this feeling that's sort of difficult to describe. Kind of an itch, I suppose. Like the skin on my head and the back of my neck was crawling. I felt cold, too. Like a draft was blowing in through the window. Only it wasn't, and I knew it wasn't, because all the windows were shut. Anyway, I was lying there trying to get back to sleep, but it wasn't easy. I couldn't get comfortable. After a while, I got to thinking I maybe needed to use the bathroom. And once the thought was in my head, I couldn't get it out, so I sat up. My room was almost pitch black. Just a tiny bit of streetlight getting in through the curtains. All grey, black shadows. I reached over to get my glasses from the bedside table. And as I put them on, everything came into focus. She was standing at the foot of my bed. The woman, just standing there, watching me. I couldn't see her face, but I could tell she was looking in my direction. Still as a statue. I remember that cold feeling spread through my whole body when I saw her.
Oh, you must have been terrified.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't scare easily, son. Oh, but I was scared then. Oh, yes. Just about as scared as I can ever remember being in my life.
So what happened?
Well, nothing at first. For a long time, I just sat there staring at her. I suppose I was in shock. She never moved the whole time. Just stood in that same position, her face in shadow. And then eventually I glanced away, just for a second. I think I was looking for a weapon or something. And when I looked back, she'd gone. Disappeared. As if she'd never been there at all.
So this strange woman...
If you're gonna ask whether she was part of a dream or something, don't. I know when I'm sleeping, and I know when I'm awake. I'll admit it was the first thought I had too, that maybe I was just having a really bad nightmare. Maybe I was coming down with something. I tried to justify it to myself wherever I could, but I never believed it. I knew it was real. I knew she was real.
I wasn't going to suggest you were dreaming, Mr. Rickman. I was going to ask about the following nights. Did you say in the email you've seen her 6 times now?
That's right. If she's back tonight, it'll be the 7th.
And always at the same time?
3:13. Every night. 3:13.
And has anything been different on those other nights?
Well, she gets closer.
I'm sorry?
The woman. Each night I've seen her, she's a little bit closer to me. Closer to the bed. It's like that game we played at school when we were kids, where you have to turn your back and your mates sneak up on you when you're not looking.
Then have you seen her face?
Yes. Yeah, I've seen her. Only once though. Last night. And I'll tell you something now, son. I don't ever want to see her again. I don't ever want to look at that face again. That's why I sent the email. I think I'm getting desperate now.
Can you tell me what she looked like, Mr. Rickman?
I don't...
Anything you can tell me at all. This article will go up on our website, you see, and we have a very dedicated audience. People who know about things like this. Any extra information we can give them that might help identify the woman that's been visiting you.
Oh, that shouldn't be too hard.
I'm sorry?
Identifying her. That's the easy part.
And why is that?
She doesn't have any eyes.
I'm sorry?
She doesn't have eyes, son. That's what I saw last night, when she was close enough for me to see her face. In the place where her eyes should be, there's nothing. Just smooth flesh.
That's a section of the transcript from my interview with Bob Rickman. It goes on a little longer than that, but I think the section has all the most important bits. I should know, too. Although I only interviewed Bob the day before yesterday, I've listened to that recording around a dozen times since. The thing is, I thought this was going to be a simple enough job. A quick interview that I could transcribe and send straight off to my editor. Something that'd be online in a day or two. Only now I'm not sure the thing will ever make it up online. Now I'm starting to think I might have just stumbled into the middle of something that I don't understand. I received 3 emails from Bob after we'd finished our interview. The first came a few hours later, while I was in the middle of the transcription. I'd given Bob my email at the end of our call and told him to contact me if anything else came up. But I was a little surprised to get an email from him so soon. It contained no subject line or text, just a JPEG attachment. A photo of someone I assumed was Bob sitting in an armchair, an old guy with glasses and thinning hair, smiling into the camera. I figured he'd sent it to me to use as part of the article, and I saved it to my desktop without giving it much more thought. By that point, my MacBook was playing up a bit. I figured it had overheated or something because it kept crashing. So I decided to give up on transcribing for the night and head to bed. I saw the second email from Bob the next morning. Found it in my inbox when I was having breakfast. It had been sent to me a little before 4 in the morning. I thought that was a bit odd in itself, so I ignored my other emails and clicked straight into it. Saw that it contained a video attachment. Bob, filming evidence. That was my first thought when I opened the file. The first shot showed a dark and grainy view of a kitchen I didn't recognize. The camera was focused on the oven, which had a little digital display clock. 3:10, it read. I shuffled a little closer to my laptop. Despite only being half awake, I felt the first twinge of excitement, and just a tiny slither of fear too. Bob had woken up in the night, and he'd decided to film his bedroom as the clock struck 3:13. That had to be it. He was going to try and record the woman. I stared at the screen, holding my breath as the camera turned away from the oven. It moved across the room and through a door into a little corridor. It was very dark in Bob's house, and I struggled to make out what I was seeing. But things got a little clearer when the camera entered a room at the end of the hallway. Bob's bedroom. It had to be. I could see a window over on the left, and the curtains were mostly drawn, but a slither of streetlight spilled in through the crack. It was just how Bob had described things in our interview. The camera continued across the room, moving in the direction of the bed. The screen juddered. The camera was facing the window, but partway across the room it stopped, and the view shifted. Turned slowly to show the double bed over by the wall. I felt my entire body go cold. Someone was lying beneath the covers, the shadowy outline of a person. As the camera moved towards them, my heartbeat picked up in my chest. The camera traced its way up the shape of a person's body, pausing as it neared the head of the bed, and then it quickly tilted up to show their face. I screamed. The person lying in the bed was Bob. He was dead. I knew that the minute I saw him, not because his chest was still, but because both his eyes had been gouged out. I stared at the screen in horror, trying to tell myself it was a joke, just a prank my editor had decided to play on me. But I knew it wasn't. Although the room was dim, I could see Bob's face clearly enough to know that the ruined flesh where his eyes had been was no joke at all. The last thing that had happened before the film ended was the camera twisted to the left. It showed a view of Bob's bedside table and the digital clock that rested there. The time was 3:13. The rest of this story can be told quickly. I suppose if this was a horror movie, I'd have headed straight to Bob's house, gone out to investigate. I haven't, though. Instead, I spent all of yesterday in my flat, paralyzed with indecision, unsure of what to do next. I spent the first few hours sat in front of my laptop, staring at the screen and thinking, trying to get my head around what I just watched. Had I really seen Bob lying dead in his flat? The same guy I'd been speaking with on the phone only the day before. It didn't seem possible. As I sat there, my mind felt like it was dividing in two. Parts of me knew what I'd just seen, and believed it to be real. But the other part suddenly wasn't so sure. Doubts began to worm their way in. Maybe it was just a joke after all. Something made up by the guys in the office, or an even external prank that Bob has been hired to get involved in. Maybe I'd find myself going viral on some YouTube show in a couple days' time. Or perhaps it wasn't a joke, but simply a mistake. Maybe all I'd seen was a trick of the light, just the creation of a tired mind that hadn't had enough sleep. It was incredibly dark in the video after all. I could have easily seen something that wasn't there. After a while, I built up the courage to watch the thing again. I decided the only way to check for sure was to study the footage, even if it was the last thing I wanted to do right then. But that was when I encountered the first problem. The file would no longer work. I tried opening it with a bunch of different applications, but each gave me an error message. The thing had corrupted. Looking back, I should have called the police there and then. It all might have been a joke or a mistake, but at least they could have looked into it for me. I didn't, though. Maybe because it would have made the situation feel too real. I don't know. But in the end, all I did was email Bob, asking him to call me back as soon as possible. Then I rang his number and left a message saying the same thing. Then I waited. And I waited. And by the time it was getting dark, I made a deal with myself. If Bob didn't get in touch with me that evening, the first thing I'd do the next morning would be to make 2 calls. One to the police and one to my editor. After I decided that, I felt a tiny bit better. Then I watched TV for a while and went to bed. I slept badly. I can't remember what I dreamed, but I do remember half waking at several points in the night, feeling afraid and disoriented, unsure where I was. When I finally woke up fully, light was streaming in through the window. It was gone past 10. I hurried to my laptop and went straight to my emails, scrolled frantically past the usual junk. It was towards the bottom that I found it. Another email from Bob. With an attachment. It's been several hours now since I opened the JPEG contained in that email. Several hours I've spent feeling the worst combination of feelings I've ever felt before in my life. My stomach and head are a mess. I've got nerves swirling through me, and uncertainty. Confusion, too, but mostly it's the fear. The same paralyzing sense of fear I imagine Bob felt when he saw the eyeless woman looming over him in the dark. The image in the email showed a close-up of a clock. The quality was grainy, but it was clear enough for me to make out the time. 3:13. That wasn't the part that scared me, though. That wasn't the part that filled me with a sense of dread I haven't been able to shake since. The thing that did was the fact that I recognized the clock. I recognized it straight away. Not from the video I'd seen of Bob's house either. Oh no. I recognized it from the wall of my very own kitchen. Whoever took that photo had been in my flat. Okay, old Everett is not going to sleep at 3:13 in the morning anymore. Seems like with every horrific tale that gets told, more and more time slots get disturbing to be asleep for. Thankfully, being half dead, I sleep in the day, so there's that. When you look this damn good, not only will women and men flock to you, but skull exposed and all, you don't need to sleep too much. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give some of our other transmissions a little look. We're adding them regularly, and we'd love to have you as part of the Dusklight family by subscribing. Hitting the bell of torment, it's just the normal bell, but adding stuff like that is nice. And leave a comment with stories you'd love for my many-legged runners to find. And, one last time, close your eyes and breathe with me. Remember, no matter how bad things are out there, Dusklight will be here to provide you with some respite. Drink some water or your state-mandated potions. You matter, and you are loved. I'll see you again when the sun sets and dusk enters the station.